Oh, that's a good one, Jambot. You never fail with the jokes. Well, hello once again, everybody, on this glorious trek across the stars. Now, before I get ahead of myself, let's get right into the question of the day, shall we? Now, this one is from William, and he asks, Dear Dr. Cortex, does the moon experience night and day like we do? Well, quite frankly, William, yes, it does. If you remember my moon video back in an earlier time, you can recall the geocentric revolution, I think it was. And you can see through that the moon experiences day and night by rotating and revolving around the Earth. Now, if you remember, in its rotation, that one side of the moon always faces the Earth, and the other side of the moon does not face the Earth. However, the moon in and itself does experience night and day. However, those periods of time are obviously longer than that on Earth. But that aside, a good question, William. Good question, my lad. Now then, we go beyond our own solar system. We're going light years upon light years in our journey now. And as we're going to see today, we're going to look at our home galaxy in a whole. Of course, I refer to the Milky Way. Strap in your seatbelts, everyone. Let's see what kind of data that I have, eh? Now, the Milky Way galaxy, as you can see here from my wonderful illustration right there, it takes its name from the many mysterious bands of stars and gas clouds that encircle it. That is, nebulas and stars, if you will. And these bands are actually called the Milky Way. It flows like milk, see? And that's a bit redundant, is what I'm saying. Milky Way. Remember that? Now, the width of the Milky Way is quite formidable for a galaxy, for it spans at least 100,000 light years in width. And it actually has a depth too. Galaxies, they aren't like flat disks, you see, they have depth too. And the depth of the Milky Way is measured to be about 2,000 light years deep. And of course, with many galaxies, they rotate. And the rotation speed of this galaxy is also quite formidable. You thought our planet was moving fast. Take a look at this. 270 kilometers a second. That's quite incredible. Multiply that by 60, and that's how many kilometers a minute the Milky Way spins. Obviously, I can't do math in my head. That's something you have to do on your own. Now, I'm talking about galaxies and such, especially the Milky Way galaxy. You have to know that there are several types of galaxies in terms of a shape and whatnot. And as for the Milky Way galaxy, the galaxy type, it's a spiral. It's a spiral galaxy, as you can see from the shape it produces. And like maybe planets and some stars, galaxies such as this have what are called satellite galaxies. In other words, galaxies that are too small to host its own gravitational pull and are thus pulled by host galaxies. In the case of the Milky Way, the Milky Way galaxy has 59 separate satellite galaxies, and we'll get to more of that in just a moment. Now, going back to the rotation topic and the rotation speed and such, the Milky Way galaxy does indeed rotate, but as far as direction concerns, it depends on your perspective. You'll see, the interesting thing about space is that there is no up or down, there is no left or right. So, it all depends on how you see the Milky Way rotate. If you are here and you're looking at the galaxy as it is right now, it rotates this way, or in other words, clockwise. But what if you were on the mirror side of the galaxy? Then it would rotate the opposite way and thus counterclockwise. So space, in a sense, is defined by perspective. Now, all this, what do you call it? Asteroids, planets, stars, nebulas, everything that makes up a galaxy, it is all controlled by a supermassive black hole. And you might remember me suggesting a supermassive black hole at the center of many galaxies. It is especially in the case of the Milky Way galaxy, for a supermassive black hole resides in the center of our galaxy. And as a matter of fact, this supermassive black hole has a mass of nearly 4 million suns. 4 million suns, count them. That's 4 times a million. Incredible spaces, really. Now, as galaxies themselves hold clusters of smaller galaxies, along with, like I said, all the planets and the stars and the solar systems, all that jazz, galaxy clusters themselves can group up. It can group up in several groups. So, in other words, groups of groups to form what are called superclusters. Now, these superclusters themselves can form what are called Oort clouds. Now, these Oort clouds, they are sections of space, obviously groups of superclusters. But quite frankly, we're just covering the basics today. If you wish, you can look up on how celestial bodies are grouped through your internet browser. But with all that aside, this is our home galaxy, the big, fat, shiny Milky Way, and I wouldn't have it any other way, as a matter of fact. Now, all this talk about galaxies and such might get you thinking, so to say. Well, I have such a tool for thinking, you might say. Of course, I'm referring to one of my coveted Cortex challenges. Let's go ahead and see what today's challenge brings. Okay, alright. That's splendid, fantastic. Alright, so I am sending each of you off on a quest. There are many different types of galaxies, and scientists have already developed all sorts of names for classifying galaxies. So, what I want for you to do is, using your internet browser of choice, create a chart, so to say. And I'd like for you to call that chart Galaxies A through Z. And I want you to find 26 galaxies with, starting with each of the letters of the alphabet. Now, I know that some of the latter letters, such as maybe U and X and W and Y and Z, might be hard to identify as far as names go. how do I put this? For those cases, just find a galaxy with those letters in it, so to say. I'm giving you a loophole here, folks. Be very, very lucky. And then, once you have found all of those galaxies on the internet browser, I want you to create, maybe, like, record, so to say, a fact about each of them. Does that sound good? I think that does sound good. What do you think, Jambot? Does that sound good to you? He says it sounds very good. Anyhow, let's go ahead and see what the next topic is, shall we? Brought to you by the computer herself. Thank you very much. Fitting. Very fitting. For you see, ladies and gentlemen, on the next segment, we will discuss the Andromeda Galaxy. Look at that. Our nearest major galactical neighbor. Now then, I'd like to thank all of our viewers for their support throughout this journey of mine. A big shout out to William for providing the question of the day. And if you yourself want to submit the question that you have below down in the comment section, feel free to do so. Who knows, your question might be featured on the next segment. And with that, my friends, I bid you farewell in 3, 2, 1.